Hi, this is Stephen E. Andrews, Outlaw Bookseller. Welcome to the channel. Please subscribe and watch the backlist. And it's time for another reading from my book 100 Must-Read Science Fiction Novels. Today we're going to look at Joe Haldeman's The Forever War. To my mind, The Forever War is a famous book, and it still astonishes me how many people I talk to who read science fiction regularly simply haven't read it. It's, for me, one of the sort of modern sort of standpoints and sort of masterworks and obvious places to read if you want to come in and read SF. I would say its great virtue is that if your only familiarity with science fiction is science fiction on screens, i.e. TV or film, which isn't always great science fiction, but it is what people think of as science fiction, which is I would call sci-fi. The beauty of it is that it's very accessible to anybody who's watched a film like Aliens or Starship Troopers or series like The Expanse, any of those sort of things, because it deals in the very stuff that people recognize as SF. Space, space travel, the future, technology, aliens, what have you. And, you know, it's a great read. So I'm just going to give you a reading from it. And in front of you, what you're seeing on the right is the hardcover Gollancz Masterworks edition from about 20 years ago, long out of print. Of course, it's in Masterworks paperback. You can buy it pretty much anywhere. I sell it all the time. And this is my original Futura edition, which I bought in 1984, which is a different text. And we'll come on to that later on. So I'm just going to find the entry in my book and read it to you, to give you an idea of what it's about. Joe Haldeman, born 1943, USA, The Forever War, published 1974. Private William Mandela is a conscript. His lowly rank disguises his elite status. For like every soldier drafted into the army of the future, his IQ measures over 150. This special force is fighting a war waged in interstellar space against an alien enemy. Man's first contact with extraterrestrials during the colonization of distant planets has been a violent one. Earth is consequently at odds with an unknown species described only as the Taurans. We follow Mandela's progress from training on Iceworld Charon through mind-blowing Stargate jumps to take his company many light years from Earth to humanity's first direct engagement with the enemy. In what is merely months for Mandela, travelling on high-velocity starships, years pass on Earth due to the effects of relativity, and he returns home on R&R to find his homeworld radically changed. One of the few ongoing survivors of his unit, Mandela is promoted and shipped out to face the Taurans again, but this time he is fighting an antagonist whose technology has leapt ahead of ours, again due to Einstein's theories of relativity. If he endures, the next trip he takes Earthside may be even more unsettling than his first. Mandela is convincingly realised due to his similarity to the author himself. The owner of a degree in physics and astronomy, Haldeman saw action in Vietnam, where he was wounded in combat and subsequently awarded the Purple Heart. In the book, the science of living and fighting in such a hostile environment as outer space is expertly described, while the disciplined use of relativistic physics in the plotting of the book, including dazzling starship chases, make for intoxicating reading. One of the best written hard SF titles ever, The Forever War is also a key Vietnam document, praised by traditional genre readers and also by the most dedicated New Wave devotees alike. That's including me. I'm very much a New Wave guy and I absolutely love this book. A distinctly anti-militaristic novel that succeeds in condemning rather than glorifying the follies of war, the book will be relished by anyone entranced by films such as Full Metal Jacket and Starship Troopers. That's what I wrote about The Forever War back in 2006. My book came out. I mentioned that you could read on and read the sequel Forever Free. You could read his books Mindbridge, the anthology Study War No More. And I also suggested you read Bob Shaw's Who Goes Sure, which is an altogether funnier and lighter take on war. Necessary after some of the grim stuff you can read about it. What I would say is that I tend to have a rule, which is I try not to read sequels. especially if they come out a long time afterward, because they're usually done purely for commercial reasons. And a lot of people have said that when they've read the 2 sequels to Forever War, they've been disappointed. So I would say stick to the original. As I say, this is the Futura one here, which has a different text. If you find an old one with this cover, do pick it up, because there are textual differences. In the Masterworks edition, Haldeman writes about how there are 3 versions of the book and how the current one came to be, and the current one is the definitive one. The differences I recall in the 2 editions is that when Mandela returns to Earth on R&R, and vast distances of time, decades often have passed, he's been away subjectively to him only for a matter of weeks or months, and on Earth years, sometimes decades have passed. It's the sort of sequence, those interim sequences where he goes back to Earth and sees cultural changes, which are the real sort of differences. But so it is worth picking that one up as well as the Comics Masterworks one. I mentioned the book in reference also to Starship Troopers. I always say to people, if you want to read military SF, obviously there's a lot of it, but these 2 are the sort of the really comparable books. Starship Troopers is one of the Heinlein's which I actually like. I'm not a huge fan of Heinlein's prose style. I'm not a huge fan of his politics. You know, I found him prurient even at the age of 14 when I first read him. But this is a short, sharp book. It's interesting because, of course, it's set in a near-future Brazil, so the central protagonist and the narrator is in white. You know, so he was years ahead of his time in that. But you read the 2 together and you get a really interesting sort of take on it. The sort of libertarian take versus a more sort of left-wing take. And the Forever War is absolutely a marvellous book, and it's really full-on traditional SF. But it's the sort of book that anybody can enjoy. And as I say, it's informed by Haldeman's own experience in Vietnam, which is detailed in this book, 1968. Originally published under the title Warrior. I've actually only very recently acquired this. This cost me £1 on eBay. It's from 1994, this edition, and I don't know how I missed it because it's a UK Hodder and Stoughton, and I've always wanted to read it, never got around to it. So I'm really looking forward to reading that and comparing the 2. But I sell an awful lot of the Forever War in work, because I find people haven't read it, which astonishes me. And yet to me it's, you know, a really sort of, you know, famous book. As Tom Dish says on the cover here, it is to the Vietnam War what Catch-22 was to World War II. And of course there's a very great tradition of American writing about the Vietnam War, things like Chicken Hawk and Born on the 4th of July, and the very, very wonderful book The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien, which I can't praise highly enough. One of the finest novels I've ever read, and I'm going to do a talk about that at some point. So if you ever see that, do pick it up. The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien, an amazing book on every level. And the Forever War for me is just an astonishingly good book. It's very entertaining. It has fantastic messages, good characters. The only thing I don't like about it is I do feel the ending, it's a happy ending, it's a bit Deus Ex Machina. I'm not entirely sure about that, but sometimes it's nice to just have a happy ending. You know, we all like that sometimes. So that's the Forever War. So if you're a novice SF reader, pick it up. If you're an experienced one, you've never read it, boy, are you in for a treat. So this is Outlaw Bookseller signing out for now and hoping you'll read the Forever War. Bye for now.